Welcome to this next episode of the Voices of Boost, the podcast where we discuss bold ideas and big ideas in our energy industry. Today I'm sitting here with Jan Van Alphen. He's head of strategy at Faktion. So Jan, I'm wondering, Faktion is all about turning AI ideas into practical, solid solutions. Mm-hmm. Can you explain a bit on how your approach is, how you actually bring technology to life in real-life situations?
For us and for me, it really starts by defining what impact really is. A lot of the projects that we do today evolve around supporting knowledge workers. When you look at how these projects often are ordered, it's at C-level, right? We engage with C-level in discussing project opportunities. But there's often quite a substantial gap between what C-level decides in terms of what the scope of the project should be about, and the expectations from the actual users who we are designing systems for. And so it really starts for me defining with those people what impact through their eyes and through their lenses really means, and only then can you define and design impactful full systems. So it's really finding opportunities to work with them, to listen to them, to understand their unmet needs is what I like to call it. If you look at how they work today, where do they see frictions? Where does the current system landscape shows limitations, and try to find what really moves the needle for them and design a system accordingly. That's how we start looking at impact.
Yeah, and is that in some sort of an experimental phase that you start, or are you really productizing AI stuff for those companies?
It's both. Engineering AI solutions is difficult in the sense that what you design on paper right at the beginning of a project is very hard to produce. This is not deterministic software where what you architect, what you design on paper can be achieved quite deterministically. The type of AI that we engineer is very different. It is probabilistic, so it means that you can design desirable output, but you need a certain level of experimentation to measure, how useful is AI on this company data or in this context, and try to find ways to engineer from there instead of engineer from the paper, if you see what I mean. And it's also a lot about productization, because in order for people to adopt a system, use a system, you need to find a way to both hide the complexity underpinning that system and make it very usable for them. So that implies applying a product DNA at everything that you do.
Yeah, a lot of companies are a bit struggling between should we buy stuff or build stuff ourselves. Mm-hmm. Is it also something you encounter when talking about AI with customers?
I see a lot of our customers and a lot of companies in general struggle with that question. Should we buy technology or AI technology, or should we build it? And it's a very difficult question for companies to answer because the landscape is so rapidly evolving. Almost 3 years ago, when ChatGPT was released by OpenAI, you had this technology where everything had to be learned. People weren't familiar working with that technology, and it meant custom building almost everything. If you look at the landscape today, a lot of platforms have native AI elements. Very popular, type of use cases like RAG prototypes. A lot of these systems can be configured quite rapidly today, whereas a few years ago you needed to custom build those solutions. So Yeah, so a lot of what we do is advising customers in when do you need to start building, and what we try to do is we try to start prototyping from a baseline that uses their current system landscape. You have a lot of new capabilities like MCP servers, for instance, which serve as some sort of a layer between an AI system and a data repository that allows you to quickly connect with those systems and to see how useful AI already is right off the bat, out of the box. And I strongly believe in using that benchmark to define with your customer, okay, what do we see here? How useful is AI already? And what do we need to improve its performance? And improving performance often means layering custom build components to it. So we start with solutions that are bought, but we often layer custom solutions on top of that.
Yeah, I try to improve them.
Yes.
As a matter of fact.
Yes.
Yeah, I also heard you talking about the performance, but how do you actually measure the performance of an AI system? Because it also learns by itself, as they say. But how do you measure if that is all going well and actually improving over time and working as it should?
That's quite a difficult process, and there's also often a misconception in the fact that AI is self-learning, while in fact AI isn't self-learning. I mean, an AI model cannot learn from its mistakes and cannot learn from interactions with users, because in most of the times the technology that we use or have closed weights. That means that it comes with pre-trained intelligence, and you cannot just add intelligence to that model. So you use a model that you take from providers like OpenAI, for instance. And so the way you improve a model is not by, or a system is not by improving the model, but is by improving the prompt, for instance, that is used to steer the model, and is improving data sources, for instance, by adding metadata. So it's all about finding what should be improved. Is it data or is it prompts? And that process involves evaluating AI's output by the domain expert or the user for which we design the system for, and use his or her evaluation signals, his feedback signals, to learn what should be improved. That's in short the process of improving an AI system.
Yeah, so it's not only about the data that's going into it, but also how people interact with the system actually.
Yeah, and you have to understand LLMs, which is the technology that we use to underpin these systems. They learn from patterns that they recognize in training data. But your company data is not something that can be seen as a well-established pattern. I mean, a lot of the company data that you own is hidden and is not available in the training data of an LLM. So that means that when you apply an LLM to your company data, it will not function really well in the beginning. So what you need is people using the system with what we call real-world queries. So what that means is with questions that they would typically ask in a day-to-day work environment, so that the system knows what is a relevant question to be answered, and then using that same user to look at the output and say, this is correct, this is incorrect, or this is valuable to me, this is not valuable to me, this is relevant, this is incomplete. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that can be adjusted, but you kind of need that level of involvement from the user to say, yeah, this is good, this is not good.
I somewhere heard you talking about evaluation-driven development. Mm-hmm. Is this actually what you mean by that?
Yes. Yeah. That is design a process that allows your users to interact with your system as soon as possible, as early as possible. So that also implies don't waste a lot of time building a prototype. Build something that is lightweight enough to have a real user test the system almost from day one. And design the process in a way that you bring the right annotation tasks to that users. And an annotation task can be a variety of things. It can be looking at output and scoring the output. It can be look at the data sources and verify if the data if the data collection is complete. Is there data missing? Are there important documents missing? So there's a whole host of annotation tasks, is what we call it. An evaluation-driven development process means having the process in place at the right moment in the development process where an actual user is offered the right annotation task in the form of a tool so that we can learn from those signals and engineer a proper solution. And you have to know that our engineers are really, really good at engineering AI solutions, but they're not a domain expert. So they have a lot of blind spots. They cannot look at output from an AI model and verify if that data or if that output is correct. So they need someone to tell it for them. Yeah. So, and that is what evaluation-driven development is all about, is allowing that to happen.
But it's also a good thing, because it's also like a quality check for the system, actually.
Yeah.
That approach.
Yeah.
Now, when you've set up an AI system and it works properly and it delivers the output that you expect from it, how difficult is it to scale it? Because I can imagine companies that are growing, there's more and more data coming into their systems as well. Is it easy to scale up an AI system, or is that also a challenge?
Yeah, it's very challenging, and I think there's consultancy companies that actually try to measure how much prototypes actually reach the production stage. I don't think that we're seeing high percentages of production cases yet. So it's very, very difficult. It's very challenging. And the reason is for it being challenging is because it's so difficult to design for very specific outcomes from day one. So what you need to stop doing is, instead of promising features from day one and trying to deliver that feature, although even though it's very difficult to predict that course, is going from that kind of approach to going to an approach that is much more centered around learning, exploring, and then identifying usefulness. And sometimes that usefulness is very different than the kind of usefulness that you designed the system for right at the beginning. So it's using a group of test users to define what is usable when you look at this first deployment in a test environment. And can we have you adopt this already? Can this be something that already makes you or accelerates your decision process, and then building from there. So instead of promising a whole bunch of features which are very difficult to achieve and then failing to get that to production, for me it's much more about exploring and identifying usefulness while you are going and trying to deploy that in production. And so it's a whole different way of looking at what is production level quality, and for me it's all about usefulness and not about deploying features.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of companies or clients you work with often get ideas while they are in such a project or implementation with you. Where do you see the most opportunities in industries like manufacturing or maybe even energy and utilities to use AI actually to their benefit?
I mean, AI is very, very good when the output shouldn't be black or white or shouldn't be 0 or 1. this is the domain of traditional AI, which is very different. It's about statistical analysis. It's about like for instance, churn prediction. That's a typical AI use case. When you look at AI and especially the type of AI we use today, we're looking at a very probabilistic kind of technology where the output isn't so very controllable. It's very difficult to have the system define 0 or 1, but it's very, very good at giving a very nuanced answer on vast amount of information that are critical when that information should be consumed, and a decision from that consuming of data should be delivered fast. So if these conditions are met, then AI is the perfect solution. We're building a system for Ferranti that allows technical and functional consultants to surface feature information from MECOMS 365. A process where, I mean, especially if you look at junior consultants that take up almost 1/3 or almost half of their time, like just by searching information and then using that information to make a decision on how should I implement this feature today. So if we can speed up that process by having AI look at that knowledge repository and surface the right piece of information, then these are the right use cases for me.
Yeah, then it's more like empowering people by using the technology, actually. Yeah?
Yes, and I think empowering is a very good word, I think, because a lot of misconceptions when I open LinkedIn and I read the stories and the posts there, a lot of misconceptions are born out of the idea that AI agents will somehow replace humans. I don't really believe in that. It's not about replacing people. It's like it's about empowering people in doing their job much better than they used to do it. And I think that is something that a lot of people can relate to. If I use ChatGPT a lot to help me write better emails, I couldn't write the type of email today that I used to write 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And it's the same if you use that idea and you look at it from a point of position of scale, and you look at an organization, then leveraging AI to become a better version of yourself. That's what it's all about. It's not to replace you. I mean, I'm still the one making the decisions. I'm still the one using judgment in my day-to-day work. But if I can use AI to help me write a better email, then I am a better version of myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you need to look at AI solutions and AI use cases. How can we design systems that make people do their job better than they used to do it?
Yeah, it's a bit like in Word when first the spelling and grammar checks were introduced. That's also to help people to improve what they are actually doing. But the input is still delivered by the human, of course. So according to your perspective, do you think that people need to fear AI technology? Because that's also something you often hear. We need to fear the technology because we don't know what it's doing or will do in the future.
Yeah, I think a lot of the AI labs and big tech giants releasing AI models and releasing AI products have a benefit in making people believe that the technology is much more powerful than it is, because they're not talking to you, they're talking to an investor who brings in the billions of dollars that they need to train the model. So but on the other hand, I also I do strongly believe in the idea, and it's a slogan that you hear all the time, that people that use AI will outperform people who don't use AI. I strongly believe in that statement because it changes the whole dynamic of generating insights in a business context. We used to, I mean, if you look at the past, our companies were triangles where the top of the pyramid made the decisions because they had the insights and they had the data. But that whole dynamic is changing. If you use AI, you have the insights. If you know how to use an AI, and you have access to data, then you have the insights, and that will change the dynamic completely. It will change how decisions are made in a company. And so I do believe that if you master AI and applying AI in how you work, then yes, you will have a benefit. So I think that should fear people who are not using AI. But I wouldn't suggest that we need to become vigilant that AI will take over the world or will make some sort of a bomb that destroys the world or stuff like that. I don't.
Make a great movie, I think.
I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then looking ahead, what excites you most about Faktion's future? Are there new spin-offs that are coming up, or new technologies you are investigating, or opportunities? Are there any things you can share?
Well, we don't have plans to. We went from being a product-oriented company, so we used to build and ship SaaS products to the market, most notably ChatLayer and MetaMaze. But we exited those platforms a couple of years ago, and we are now a service company doing our designing and building products for one specific customer. So we're building SaaS for one customer. That's what we do. So we're not creating something that we will release to the market anytime soon, or that we don't have plans. But my ambition and our ambition is just to do better projects and to make sure that whatever we do feels really, really valuable and impactful for our customers. I mean, that is our ambition. That's where a lot of our focus is going to for the moment.
Yeah, then maybe one last question to wrap this interesting conversation. I'm actually wondering, what advice would you give to leaders of companies who are actually in doubt or investigating if they should use AI technology and how they can use it for a long-lasting benefit, actually, and not a one-off experiment?
I would say do your own research, and that means allow your people to freely use AI in their day-to-day so that they themselves can surface the right AI use case. We need to stop hiring companies that decide or define what should be the AI use case. We need to go to allowing knowledge workers to understand AI in ways that it can not only make their work better, but also understand better when and where to apply AI. And I think a lot of the challenges that we see in scaling prototypes to production will start to vanish once we're building use cases from the ground up instead of top down. Yeah. So invest in AI fluency, invest in allowing people to do their own R&D and allowing them to speak up about what they learn and organize it in ways that you can take those learnings and then hire a company or do it yourself. I don't care, but try to create more impact.
Yeah, it's here and it won't go away. Eh?
No. It's here to stay.
Yeah, indeed. Yes. Jan, I would like to thank you for this interesting talk. It really sparked my interest to learn even more about AI.
It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you for being our guest. And I would also like to thank our listeners and viewers to tune into this podcast again. And I hope to see you in one of our next editions as well. See you soon.